bit hard to talk about sales. It's kind of, well, you'll hear me say quite a lot that we seem to think it's a dirty word, and it shouldn't be really. And it's a little bit about mindset, I think. And here comes the maestro of mindset, Derek. Well, I think it's a little bit about mindset. I think when we talk about, hi Derek, when we talk about sales and being scared of it, we make ourselves scared of it. So we have to sort of think about it different. And one of the things that I think that we need to think about it is looking at the fact that selling something, it's not about selling something, it's about telling somebody about something that might be of a benefit to them, something that they can't do or they don't have, and something that will be of benefit to them. So when Lois was telling me about sales training, I thought that's a really great opportunity, because I know there's a few folks who struggle with it. So Lois has got a lot of experience doing this. I'll let her give you a better brief history of herself than I can give. But I thought also she has the added advantage a little bit of being American, because I think in the US you grow up a little bit more fluid with what you say or what you don't say. And the first time I encountered this was when I was on honeymoon, when I heard some American kids saying, "Who wants to come with me and get a Coke?" Now, when I was a kid that age, it always used to be, does anybody want to come with me? And it was always very tentative. So it's a very different way of putting it. And I thought, you know, we can learn a lot from Lois. So do you want to take it away, Lois?
I was in the midst of getting my recording going. Good morning, good afternoon. I know we have, since we have a little bit of a smaller group, I love the intimacy, and I'm okay if you guys want to just take it, and you don't have to, it's optional. Give yourself 15 seconds, tell me where you're tuning in from, and also if you're in BNI or not. I know that's how Samantha and I met. I'm a BNI director over here in Southern California, and have been in BNI for 5.5 years, so I always love my BNI family, and actually a lot of my principles that I'm teaching today are the exact same things that helped me bring 50 members into BNI over the last 5 years, and being one of the top inviters to my BNI chapter. So if you want to, Herman, do you want to introduce yourself and anything that you're struggling with or challenged by in sales? And then I'll just go as I see people. I'll call you out, and again, you don't have to share.
Shall I go first then?
Sure.
Yeah. Hi, Lois. Nice to meet you. Hello, everyone. My name's Neil. Obviously, it's on there on the screen, isn't it? I'm a graphic designer, and I've been a member of BNI for 7 years. As far as sales goes, I'm not particularly good at it. I'm not sure why, but I'd be interested to hear how you managed to get so many visitors to your BNI group.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else want to go? I won't call you out, then that way it doesn't put you on the spot. If you want to take yourself off mute and go ahead and share.
I don't mind. I'll do it. Have a go on it. So I'm Kate. I am in BNI. That's how I met Lois. I went to one of her chapters. So I'm a personal stylist. I've been doing it for 8 years, but I've branched out freelance in the last 9 months. And although I think people sell from me because I'm quite relatable, but I think they have to know me before I can sell to them. And I know that's kind of how sales goes, but I think I struggle. I'm too polite, I think. I struggle in what Samantha was saying. It's that Britishness where it's always a little bit awkward to be a little bit more direct. So I'd be interested to learn a bit more.
Awesome.
Let me go next. Jonita from normally a very sunny South Africa, but today we're freezing and the wind's blowing outside, and our winters are miserable. We're not so well with heat and insulation like you guys overseas. But yeah, I'm a virtual assistant. I've been doing that for 3 years now. I've also met Lois through BNI with my partner from VSS Tutor. I'm basically, my expertise is running my clients' projects on blogs, newsletters, their designs, and anything else that's office administrative. I'm normally the worker bee, so I completely suck, sorry for the word, at sales. I like working and putting stuff out there. So yeah, this could be a great opportunity to learn a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Lois. Nice to meet you. And Stubbs, I'm with same BNI as Sam and a couple of others on here, Neil and Suzette. Quite interesting to hear what the language, I think, that different language we use that will either get people, I think, to buy or not buy, rather than just saying, do you want to buy my product? It's also, I think, be interested to hear how you sort of use different language. I'm sure you've probably heard of a guy called Big Al, Tom Schreiter in America. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Say
Have you heard of him, Lou? Sorry. Is Tom Schreiter, Big Al, his name is?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
He's huge in America, I know, huge worldwide. But I'm just interested to see, if there's any connection there between what you do and what he might be doing. I'm looking forward to this. Very much so. Thank you.
So I'll jump in next. For those who don't know me, my name's Sam Bridger and I'm a business coach. So it fits in very well with what Lois does. But still I have something to learn, more about sales systems than anything else, because sometimes I don't quite have the self-discipline to do what I know I need to do. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that.
Awesome.
Hello. I go next?
Yes.
Shall I go next?
Sure.
Hello, I'm Suzette. So I'm very pleased to meet you. So I'm also in the same BNI as Derek and Neil and Sam. And my sales has always been my passion. I'm an osteopath, and my work has always come from word of mouth. So I've never really marketed much, or I've only come to platform posting just recently. So I'm just intrigued to be here to see what I can learn. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
I'm Charles. I'm a podcast presenter, producer, and Sam's bully, as she would call me, in her running group. So I've been going for about 2 years, so I'm still quite early on in my journey, and sales is definitely like pretty much everybody else said, like Kate said, I'm too polite and too nice. That is true, Sam. So yeah, interested to learn from what we've got today, and it's nice to see Neil as well. Hi, mate.
That's great, Charles. I actually just started my podcast. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. Totally a newbie, and I'm interviewing Dr. Ivan Meisner and his wife on June 4th. So maybe we can compare notes on best practices and stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, no worries.
Anyone else want to go that hasn't gone? I think.
Yeah,
Herman,
okay, I will do. My name is Herman Harking from the Netherlands, and I'm I'm BNI member by Forte Naarden for 3 years, and I'm doing innovation energy systems. And now I'm starting a new product, what working with energy of the stars. And so marketing will bring us to a new level of sales. So that's my my work today.
Awesome. I know I have one more guest from India that's jumping on right now. We'll see if we can give him the opportunity to share, and then we'll dive right in. Hello, Tarun. Do you want to share where you're tuning in from, and if you everybody else is gone, and just if you have any specific sales challenges or goals for today's call?
Sure. Can you hear me? Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So yes, I am tuning in from Pune, India, and I am a digital transformation consultant, and I am doing sales. So I would like to know the right way to pitch to your customers, you know.
Awesome. Wonderful. Excellent. Well, I'm so glad that we have a nice little group here so you guys can share. I will be recording this as well and sharing the recording with you guys after the fact, because I know repetition is the mother of learning, and I'm going to turn the fire hose on to you today. So go ahead and make sure that you guys are taking notes. Looks like some of you already are. I'm going to be sharing my slides here right now and going through a lot of information. I've been in sales for 20 years. I've had a lot of success, and it's just because I really am passionate about it. It's my calling, it's my purpose, and I've helped a lot of people overcome the fear of sales, or just even take the fear out of selling. I was sharing with Sam just before all of you hopped on. I actually talked to a gentleman who, he's so scared of sales and making phone calls. He's used to face-to-face, belly-to-belly selling. And so now this whole COVID-19 thing has really thrown him for a loop, that he was starting to drink a beer before he would make his phone calls and go through this new normal. And so I was like, no, we don't want to do that every day. Let's see if we can help you overcome that fear of selling. So my name is Lois Koffi. I'm the owner of Lois Koffi Enterprises. I'm a professional speaker, sales coach, and of course, I've done a lot with my podcast as of recently, which you'll hear about later. So I already asked you guys, you know, what you need today. What do you want to create in this next 45 to 60 minutes? My goal is to, and sometimes I go a little longer, sometimes I go a little shorter. It just depends on where the wind is blowing me in that moment. I really go by my intuition and what I share. The slides are just merely to keep me on task. Otherwise, I could talk about sales for like 10 hours straight and still be going. So my hope is to talk for 40-ish and then open up for Q&A. So please take notes, hold your questions to the end. Try not to use the chat, because that throws me off during the presentation if I see notes flying. But we will have Q&A at the end. My goal today is to have you take action on something today. You know, take one nugget. My 4 secrets to success is what I call this talk, and be able to have one thing that you learn new today that you apply and you work with. And then, of course, at the end, I'm going to share how, if you choose to, totally a great option if you want to continue to work with me going past today in any of my ongoing programs. So today, I'm going to talk about, again, my 4 secrets to success to help you sell virtually. I know at least one of you mentioned, you know, you're not used to selling online. And, you know, what does this new normal look like? I personally don't believe that we're going to go back to the way life was. I've talked to a lot of different mentors, my own sales coaches and trainers, and I really do believe that all of us have got to pivot, if you haven't already done so, to be able to go into this new normal with excellence and having a bit of the upper hand, if you will, because there's a lot of people who kind of freaked out and their business has gone down. Their sales have gone down, their income has gone down. I hope that hasn't happened to any of you. Really quickly, I have had a lot of compassion for a lot of what's going on right now, because I was blindsided by the recession here in America back in 2006. I had been making multiple 6 figures in my sales career as a real estate agent. I was also a sales trainer. Starting at age of 25, I was doing so well that my broker said, hey, Lois, you obviously know how to do this sales thing and work with people. And a lot of real estate agents who were struggling would attend my classes. And I would also talk to them about work-life balance and how to, you know, take care of your body and your mind through that process. Because I was also a running coach. I've coached thousands of runners and triathletes, and I've also coached thousands of people in business and in sales primarily. So life was good. I had a mortgage company. I had it all. I was traveling the world, going anywhere, doing anything I wanted. I had an amazing sales team, some good business partnerships, and then all of a sudden, I hit a wall, or the wall hit me, and everything, because I was all leveraged in real estate, I lost everything. And I went from, you know, the top of the mountain, and literally about less than a year later, I was essentially homeless. I had to sell my primary residence to eat, And I still had 3 foreclosures and investment properties. I eventually had my car repossessed, my cell phone turned off, my bank accounts cleaned out, and I was hurting mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually. I had to start all over. I had to learn how to work from home. I had to learn how to sell new stuff, basically not in a face-to-face, belly-to-belly market, because again, I didn't have a car for a while. So riding around on my bicycle, living in Southern California at the time, there wasn't really good transport system to get me around like there maybe is in the UK. So I was beside myself, and yet it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I learned to reach out, ask for help. I found the right coaches and mentors who helped me pivot. However, I didn't do it fast enough. And that's the moral of my story, why I tell people do what you can to pivot as quickly as you can. Because it took me 5 years to recover from that recession. However, it did make me recession proof, and it did help me understand sales to a deeper level. And that's where I start with my definition, sharing with you that to me, sales is service through relationships, finding people who have a need, and then having me be the one to fill it with excellence. And so having to communicate with people like this, way back even then, before Zoom existed, we had Skype and teleseminar lines. I did a lot of telecoaching back then. And it really helped me be ready for today. So right now, at least here in America, they talk about this 2 to 3 year recession. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not trying to speak that that's like real, but we do have over 33 million unemployed. We do have a lot of people who are hurting financially right now, and a lot of them are considering starting a new career in sales. And that's one of the things that you can do, or I can do, to be recession proof for the next time, along with a lot of other things that I teach my clients on how to be future-proofing your business. So the first thing that I learned back in 2006, 2007, 2008, and this all goes along with what you guys were talking about, is that mindset. What can you control in your sales career? Because right now you can't control the fact that there's this thing called COVID-19. And I don't know what it's like in each of your respective countries. You know, we're just coming out in these different phases of being able to go out, but most people are still not meeting in person. Our BNI groups are not meeting in person. What can you control? And those things that you can control, I believe, are your mindset, your health, your daily income producing activities, your time management, and the rest, as we say, you know, is out of our control. So one of the things that I've figured, and this is more of my philosophy as well, just so you kind of get to know who I am. I love sales so much, and yet when I've had my own struggles, it usually came down to mindset and service. And selling is not being a pushy salesman. It's not being that arm twisting manipulator, right? We have services, you all have services where you can help people and you can change their lives. I love this boomerang law of the universe. What you think about, you create, right? And what you send out, you attract. And so if you're thinking you don't like sales, or if you're not so sure about sales, that is energy that's being emitted out to your prospects, to whomever you're talking about. And that also goes along with what you're talking about. Why have I had so many visitors come to BNI? Is my energy was positive. I gave without expecting anything in return, and the visitor, 90% of the time, I'd get a 75% show up rate, and then of course 50 people applied, and it was because of this right here. It wasn't about scripts. Sure, I had a script because I believe in scripts. I even have a free gift for you guys today, a book on sales scripts mastery. But it's really whatever's going on in your heart and your mind that's being shared with that other person that's going to determine if they either buy from you, if they visit your BNI chapter, all of those things. So back in the recession, I had to work on myself every day. And because I had a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, a lot of trauma, I had to really, really give this a focus on a daily basis. So that's my tip number one. is building your mindset daily. What are you doing consciously? Because we all do a lot of things unconsciously every morning when we wake up. Do you hit the snooze button? Or do you get up and go? What does that look like for you? I know for me, even though, yes, I grew up on a farm in Iowa, I already was pretty much predisposed to be an early morning person. During the recession, I found that if I didn't keep the same schedule that I had before, I was in trouble because my day could just get away from me. So do you choose to get up early still, or do you sleep in? Do you stay in bed and meditate? I actually make sure I do spend a little extra time even before my feet hit the floor, and I choose gratitude. I say, thank you so much for another day. I am so grateful for what I'm about to create today. And even visualizing it for a moment. Or I found meditation, for me, that was a huge part of what gave me a lot of inner peace, which created outer abundance. So finding those tools and starting it every day, pretty much the same, whatever that looks like for you. Those first 5 minutes, as I call it, are mission critical, because there's a lot of different teachers and philosophers that say, you know, whatever you do between, you know, the time you wake up and 10 a.m. in the morning really dictates the rest of your day. If you get off on the wrong side of bed, you know, if you had an argument with your spouse the night before, you know, it all starts with a clean slate that next morning. Yesterday ended last night. What you think about is what you're going to create. And asking yourself, you know, even throughout the morning, how am I showing up, and being really conscious of that. And I have a couple tools I'm going to share with you that I use to help me stay conscious and be very, very mindful, so I don't go on that autopilot hamster wheel thing. That was one of the things I did. I remember back in my 20s, every day I'd go to Starbucks, right? And I'd be drinking this huge venti chai tea latte filled with sugar and caffeine, and it like got me all like crazy. And that was the rest of my day. I was just always go, 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 go. I wasn't very conscious. So do you live consciously throughout the day, and are you checking in with your mindset? One of my favorite authors, Louise Hay, she wrote the book, You Can Heal Your Life. And it's really cool because I'm reading Dr. Ivan Misner and Beth Meisner's book, Healing Can Be Easy. You probably can't see it very well. Phenomenal book about the body-mind connection and how they both of them beat cancer. And they believe it was because of the body-mind connection. Your daily habits define you. And if you're not happy with where you're at right now, it's really because of a collection of thoughts that brought you where you are today. Same in your sales career. If you're not happy with your sales, guess what? Change your thoughts. Thoughts are things, and things can be changed. And of course, if you even want another idea, a lot of times I'll tell salespeople, read the book, Think and Grow Rich. There's some phenomenal 30-day exercises in there. And again, it's not about the money. You know, a lot of people, you know, hear that title, but it's the first word is think and grow. Evolve, and your sales will grow. Your relationships will grow. Your BNI chapters will grow. That's what I believe. The other thing, you know, building your belief first thing every day, that's in addition to that last slide. How are you doing that? Are you reading books? Are you going for a walk and exercise? Or are you stuck on Facebook right away first thing and looking at posts that, for lack of a better word, pardon my expression, they might piss you off and send you on a different direction? I do my best, and I've been reminded by coaches, the only thing I use this for first thing in the morning, unless like right now, I checked it because of this call, right? But I have a voice memo recorded on here, 2 minutes of me talking about my vision for my life, where I want to be at the end of 2020. I recorded it actually at the end of 2019. And even with everything that's going on with COVID, I'm on track with this because I listen to it every day. And if I'm in a funk, I listen to it again. But I listen to it first thing in the morning. Some people will have a vision board, you know, reading books, saying your affirmations. You know, how do you do that? How do you do that? What I like to do too and I'll show this once we get to the time management portion, but I have a clipboard right next to me that has my affirmations for the day. I write out my vision, not just, you know, this voice memo is my recording for the next year. I write out my vision for the day on paper. There's something very valuable about writing out your goals and dreams, even writing out your ideal day. I have a free tool document that I'll send to you that's on this clipboard. If you'd like to have it, let me know. But there's tremendous value in that. I can't even begin to tell you how many seemingly miracles I've had and goals I've accomplished, and by doing that, even if it seemed impossible. Most of you don't know this, but I moved to California last year and wanted to really blow up my sales training career. I set that goal 3 years ago, and living in Minnesota, which the cost of living is much less, it seemed impossible, especially with a family with young kids. We have a 7 and 11-year-old, and moving across the country, doing all this with my husband's career and my career, very, very, very much, you know, solid. But we're like, you know what? We want to live somewhere else. We not only wanted to change our state of mind, we wanted to change our physical state that we were living in. We set a goal. I did these exercises every day. Our goal was 3 years, and we did it with 2 months to spare. Same thing with your sales career. Where do you see yourself in 2020 with this new normal? I love to write out everything in an affirmation statement. So I am so happy and grateful that my income is. I encourage you to write that down. I'm actually going to have us do a little bit of an exercise here shortly, but start thinking about, what do you want this year? What do you want in 2021? Where do you see yourself in 2023? This is a great opportunity to dream again and ask yourself, what do you really want? Maybe you have to pivot and do things differently. Like me, and maybe not, everyone's different. That was the best thing that could have ever happened to me in the recession 13 years ago. That's why I actually got excited about right now, because all sorts of new businesses, new opportunities, new relationships. Like I never would have met Samantha if it hadn't been for COVID-19 and BNI going virtual. So this is kind of a quick pivot. Part of mindset is every sales process, you have to have a sales process. And this is what I coach people on. And it's no different whether you're meeting face-to-face, belly-to-belly, or if you're doing it online. So I'm not going to dive too deeply in this today, but in the sales mountain, you start at the bottom with lead generation. And as a salesperson or a business owner, you are a leader. You're leading the prospect to taking action with integrity, excellence, compassion, and obviously a desire to help people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the business that you are in. So I'm going to touch on some of these points today, but every sales process starts with finding a lead. Without a lead, you're unemployed. Without closing a lead, you don't have any money, right? And so having that lead, setting the appointment, how do you build trust and rapport? I'm going to share with you my #1 script on how I do that. And again, I have another book that I'll give you if you want more scripts. But then through that meeting, you're identifying their needs, you're sharing their benefits that you believe you provide to fill that need, and then the close. Most salespeople leave money on the table because their mindset is kind of funky about sales. But maybe even if you chose another word, I don't care. It's just, if you don't ask for the sale in BNI, remember, if you don't ask, you don't receive. If you don't have a clear ask, if you ask for anybody and somebody, you get nobody, right? Well, you got to ask for the sale when you're meeting with that prospect. And there's a lot more to this, but I just want to make sure whatever you do, make sure you have a process or a system. That's part of your mindset as a salesperson, as a leader. You want to make sure you have a system and it's duplicatable. So if, like, I've had recruiting a lot of salespeople in my time and being able to help them, I had to have duplicatable systems. And if you have a duplicatable sales process, you can leverage yourself. You can have another person that does exactly what you do and be able to create an even bigger company, a bigger impact, a bigger income. So this is my script that I use in building that trust and rapport. Again, I'll go back to this slide. So you find the lead. I'm going to talk about how you can find unlimited leads later, but you want to first of all build that trust and rapport. And I actually use this script, if you want to call it that, pretty much every single time I talk to someone, even if I've known them for 2 years and they never bought from me, because it's all about relationships, right? And they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if you use this script, I guarantee you your income is going to increase. So the acronym is FORM, short for forming the relationship. So whenever I meet with a prospect, I used to do this. I learned this in my 20s. I hired a coach when I was 22. I had a mentor who was one of the top real estate agents in the office also. So I had a coach and a mentor. And they actually taught me the script, and I've used it no matter what I've been selling. And I've had multiple sales careers. I've been recruited by companies to sell for them and recruit for them, and was always one of the top sales people using this exact same script. So if you're kind of learning how to break the ice and where to begin, use this. So asking them, how is your family? I always have my clipboard. I'm taking notes, or now in this virtual online world, I'm taking notes on my computer and listening for clues, for key things, needs, different parts of what they're looking for. Asking them, how's your family? How's your occupation? Are they hurting right now? You might want to know that if they lost a job, I just reached out to someone yesterday. He had COVID-19 for a month. I hadn't heard back from him. I was like, dude, what's going on? And he'd been quarantined for like a month. It was really good to know that before I went, straight in and just tried to sell him on something. What do you like to do for fun? That can be a bit of a traumatic point right now, because if you're like me, I love to travel. I'm not really traveling. But talking to people, finding out what is their passions, what are their hobbies. Just like if you're in BNI, the gains exchange, the I for interests. If you have a connection, if you like the same soccer team or the same football team or the same whatever, that can bring you closer together. And then people like to connect with people who have similar interests. So it's no different in sales, no different with your prospects. And even if you have a way to help them, like I had a guy who's really bummed that he couldn't work out right now. And I was able to say, hey, your gym might be closed, but I know this awesome online personal trainer who's doing free workouts in a private Facebook group. Would that be helpful for you? I made it about them, not about me. I gave without expecting anything in return because I listened, and that instantly connected us in a deeper, meaningful way. And then of course the M is, what is their message? What are they hoping to create? Same thing, I'm talking to you guys, what are they looking to do in their career, their life, their physical life, their any part of their life that they want to share. If they share a lot, then they trust you, that you've done a good job, you've sent out good energy. That's all part of the sales process. So you form the relationship. Right now it's a little bit different because maybe, I don't know if anybody's meeting in person where you are. Right now I'm still mostly not, 90% not. So if I'm connecting with them online, maybe I even use this script in a chat. You could use this in Facebook Messenger, you could use it in LinkedIn, you can use it in WhatsApp, wherever you communicate, and then get them offline if you connected online. And for those of you who aren't used to selling this in this new normal, you're going to connect more and more with people online. How many people a day can you connect with? And I set a goal. I don't believe I'm all about SMART goals, specific and measurable, attainable, and set a goal and try for 5. I always say try for 5, give it a shot. If that's too many, I like that number because it helps you build a muscle instead of 1, but you can also start with 1. How many new people can you connect with online, get them offline, and have a sales conversation or building that relationship. And I'll show you how I do that and have done that for the last 20 years. So if you know that when you're talking to people, you form the relationship, so now what? You've had that conversation, that first conversation to build that trust and rapport. Then do you have a plan from here? And does your plan recognize these statistics? And I got to tell you, these stats are true for almost anything. These stats have even been true for me in BNI visitors and converting them to members. You know, most people don't follow up with a prospect, or not quite most, more like almost half. And that means you're leaving lots of money on the table. One of my newest clients is from India, and he's so adorable. That may not be the right word to say about someone, but he's in his 70s, and he was telling me he would only follow up once or twice. And I said, oh my gosh, we got to write you a plan. We got to get you a system. We got to get you a process, because he was doing more door knocking and cold calling, because he could go physically door to door to places. And if they said no, he just went on to the next. So do you do that? Do you have a follow-up process? Because if 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact, you're leaving lots and lots of money on the table. So this is my sales formula, and it goes in alignment with that sales mountain image that I shared with you, but it actually has multiple facets, multiple goals, and this is kind of my signature. I've transformed a lot of people's businesses and sales careers with this. It's something that you can surely attempt to do on your own if you don't already have it. I'm going to give you a few minutes to write, create, if you don't already have a plan, but then also at the end, you can certainly ask me questions about it. I'm just watching my time here right now. So there was a study done. Obviously, those stats said 80% of the sales are created on the 5th to 12th contact. So if you're expecting to close someone on the 1st or 2nd or 3rd, that's not impossible, and I can help you with that. I can coach you on that. But if that's not possible, because maybe I remember selling real estate, I would have to follow up with people 2 years before they would list or buy a home with me, because that's a bigger ticket item, right? Maybe you're a financial services person. That's a huge trust level, where you will have to build trust and rapport in multiple meetings. However, no matter if I was selling $1 million listing, or I was, selling, I have a coffee business too, where I sell coffee. The price point is much, much less. It's much easier to sell an addictive substance too. Very consumable. But anyway, I use this process to influence and basically capture that person's attention. And even if they didn't buy from me over these 8 touches, they knew me as the expert. So no matter what, don't just think about the sale. Think about the referral partner you could build from that relationship. Like all of you on here, I'm greedy. I want all of you to know me as your #1 sales consultant or sales coach forever, for the rest of your days. Whether you're a podcaster, an osteopath, in the energy space, a business coach, an online marketer, remembering some of your careers, you want to be that guy or gal that they come to and ask for advice, opinions, questions. You want to be the expert. And you want to compress timeframes too. You don't just want to say, hey, do you want to be in my email campaign and then leave it alone, unless that works for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I compress timeframes and make those 8 touches within 4 to 8 weeks. And a lot of times I've turned that stranger into a friend, into a customer, into a referral partner, sometimes even into a business partner, because I've recruited salespeople with this exact same process. Bringing people into BNI, I've used this exact same process. So the reason this works, it goes along with the stats, right? Massive exposure, massive action, and it builds trust and rapport much quicker than maybe however you normally build your process. And there was a study done in Southern California here. That's where I got this idea, and how I've used it over the last 20 years is there was a study where they were doing a mailing, a campaign. I don't know if you guys do that in your countries, if you have direct mail. I'm sure you do, where you get these big, massive postcards. It's very, very common in real estate and different industries to still do that today. But this was done a couple of decades ago, and they picked a subdivision of 200 homes. They made up a fictitious real estate agent who didn't exist, and they put together 8 direct campaign mail pieces with this fictitious real estate agent. And once a week, they sent those campaigns out. Every week was a little bit different, but it always had the name and the picture of this fictitious agent. And sure enough, guess what happened? At the end of 8 weeks, they called, got a hold of as many of those homeowners as they could, and 80% of them said if they were going to list their home today, keep in mind, this is over just 8 weeks, if they were going to list their home, they would use that real estate agent that doesn't exist. No phone calls, no nothing. So it might be a little extreme example, but do you have a process like this? For sake of time, if you can, I'm not going to give you a full 10 minutes right now, but I'd love for you to maybe take a couple minutes, and this is where I'll stop. Let's see here, if I can stop the share. Does anybody have any questions on that process at all? Does anybody use a process like that? Yep, Latara, I'll get to that when Latara has a good questions on there.
There was a question on the chat about the targeted connections that you mentioned. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Targeted connections?
Yeah, sort of where you get them from. You said making 5 contacts a day. So is that just social media? Is it people you know? Is it referrals? Is it all of the above?
Great question. It's definitely all of the above. And different days I might have different focuses just to make it easier, faster, better. I write it all down. I have a prospecting lead generation sheet where I check off. I'm that anal. I track everything. If you don't know your numbers, you can't grow them, right? You're just throwing spaghetti on the wall and making it stick. But absolutely. And my next tip, and we're getting, I can't believe this, time flies when you're having fun. I've got 2 more tips that I'm going to cover really quickly. And that the next one talks about that. Yeah. Yeah. And I saw Latara had a quick question about the M. It's also, just so you know, there's another acronym, FORD, and the M is switched with D, and you're just talking about their dreams. Like, really, where do they see themselves in the next 3 to 5 years? You know, what are their passions? Where do they want to take their family? Where do they want to be? Just let them kind of casting their vision. I just like form better because it forming the relationship. So I think for sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next slide, but take some time today, tomorrow to really, what kind of follow-up plan are you creating with each prospect, with each individual that, and I don't do this with every single person I ever meet on the street or online or at a BNI meeting, that I would not sleep, right? But pick those certain people that you just have that feeling about, that you want to stay connected to, building that trust and rapport, following through, seeing if there's a need for you to fill. And even if remember, worst case scenario, even if they don't become your client, you have an advocate. You have a referral partner. You can say, you know, hey, Herman, I know we've had a great few weeks getting to know each other, and I really, really respect you, admire you. If you knew someone who needed help with sales, who would you refer them to? My hope would be me. And then how do you stay in touch with that person beyond that and create your own database? Your gold mine of raving fans is the ultimate goal. And then at some point, I followed up with people for years, and they became, you know, one of my best clients, one of my best referral sources. And that's the kind of stuff that you don't want to forget about. And if you're going for that goal, as opposed to I've got to close this post and I've got to close this person, you're gonna shift your energy, and they're gonna really know that you care about them as opposed to closing the deal or the sale. And believe it or not, you'll actually close the sale because you're not coming across as that salesperson. All right, hold on a second. Why is it not going? Okay. So you talked about, where do I find them? Definitely BNI referrals, obviously, is my favorite. Past clients, going into my database. I also teach and coach on something called POI, person of influence. If you're looking for influencers that have, a database, kind of like Samantha, here you are, you helped bring a bunch of new friends into my universe because you're an influencer, right? So having conversations with people like that. But the other thing is, how are you building and connecting with your audience? How are you finding and creating those leads? Here's some examples of how I'm doing that, or how I've done that time and time again. I had to learn an online skill back in the day when the recession was happening, because I didn't have a car. I was doing my own shelter in place, and this was like Facebook just barely started when that happened, right? And I didn't even know how to use Facebook. So I had to find people through Yahoo groups. Again, this was back in the day. So these are examples of how can you create a brand and an audience and a following. Do you have a YouTube channel? I had a conversation with a gentleman yesterday who had a YouTube channel, but he had really not done anything with it. And I said, great, guess what? Now's the time. Set a goal. Maybe you're posting one YouTube video, one a week, setting a goal. Do you have a Facebook fan page that you can boost up right now? People are finding people online now more than ever because of COVID. So if you're not online, I gotta believe you're missing out. You can set up a blog. You can do Zoom webinars like this. You can publish an ebook. I can help you with getting started on all of these things. Affiliate programs, that's a whole nother conversation. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it. But you can be a part of different affiliate programs to also bring in more revenue. Podcasting, I started a podcast. I know we have an amazing, much more experienced podcaster on here than me, but I was just like, I was kind of terrified, but I did it anyway. And now next week I'm interviewing Dr. Ivan and Beth Meisner. I'm like, dude, my mind is blown. Like, how does that happen? And it's because I put it out there, I took a risk, I asked, and they both said yes in like 5 minutes. So doing one of these things might be scary, maybe beefing up your LinkedIn profile, getting an Instagram, whatever the case may be. But the hope is that you do something that can start to build an audience, and you don't have to be great to start. Like, I didn't do a whole lot of studying on how to start the perfect podcast. I just dove in. How do you learn how to swim? You got to get into the water, right? So by being able to pick one or two of these things, having your own brand, I said have a landing page, or if you don't have a website, or you can have a landing page where you're marketing any one of these things to also help you capture leads. I have landing pages where I'm creating 2 to 10 different leads every day. So that's a whole nother training right there. Where do I find the leads? Pushing my landing page out there, posting on social media, people finding the posts, inquiring, and now they're in my pipeline, they're in my funnel. So again, I'm kind of giving you guys a lot, but if any of this resonates with you, just pick one thing, start studying it. Someone, I know Latara's on here, she wants to publish an ebook, and I showed her how to do that yesterday. It took 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And if you have an ebook, that gives you credibility, right? And BNI, we talk about visibility and credibility and profitability. This is another way for you to do that. I wouldn't do all of them. I would just pick 1 or 2, and keep in mind that you create it once and it lasts forever, and you can repurpose it. Back in the recession, I created a college course for MBA students called Transformational Coaching, and it was about work-life balance, mindset, all the things that I coach on. Before I knew it, I turned it into an online course. I taught that online course for 6 years, and guess what? I'm still selling that 33-hour online course today, 13 years later. So whatever you do now is going to be there forever. So you want to be careful about that too. Make sure it's, you know, decent, not offensive or whatever your focus might be. But just know that it's there forever, and people can find you forever, and that's a good thing. So being able to do that is important. Throughout that process is having a CRM, making sure CRM stands for Client Relationship Manager. I do a lot of coaching on this because I recognize a lot of people are leaving a lot of leads on the table. Maybe you have a notebook that you keep track of your leads. Maybe you have note cards. Maybe you have good old-fashioned Rolodexes. You got to get it online. You got to have a CRM that gives you reminders on when to call someone. I use my CRM for that 8x8 campaign, that sales mountain process, making sure I take notes so I remember who has, you know, a daughter who's a swimmer and who has a son that's a golfer, right? Because once you're talking to, if you're talking to 5 or more leads a day, there's no way you're going to remember all that. Email marketing, if it's a good CRM, it can help you do that. It can help you make it can possibly even help you make landing pages or lead capture pages. So if you don't already have a CRM, you know, feel free to shoot me a message on asking questions on how to find one. I know we got Juanita here. She's a virtual assistant from South Africa. She's probably a good person to talk to as well. I'm actually talking to her about potentially outsourcing some of my CRM work, because to me, that's busy work. That is very, very important. You're going to make way more money if you have a CRM as opposed to if you don't. But it's also kind of being in the weeds as opposed to my flame, which is face-to-face phone calls, Zooms, webinars, all of that kind of stuff. So this is a system that I always recommend that people have. And if you have it, it's like literally your gold mine that you log into every day, and it tells you who to call, where you're at in your 8x8 process, and your follow-up, because as we all know, fortune is in the follow-up. All right, last tip is becoming a master steward of your time and energy. I sort of alluded to that at the beginning. As part of a salesperson, you got to have what I call time blocks. You got to have your prospecting time. You got to have your reflection time. You got to have your appointment times. We're all given the same 24 hours in the day, but why is it that some people seem to get way more done than you or me? And it's because they're a master steward of their time. So I'll show you really quickly. This is an example. I have a certification on time management that is through the book, The 12-Week Year. If you haven't read it, I'll show you a shot of that here before we finish. But this is an example of the ideal week that you can put together for your prospecting, your appointment times. None of us should be checking our email every hour on the hour, unless maybe you are a virtual assistant. Obviously, I don't want to project that. That's my personal belief, is if you're stuck on WhatsApp or email all the time, checking it, that is a distraction. It takes away from your dollar productive or income producing activities. So time blocking, even when you check your email or your WhatsApp, or if it's not urgent, you can check it later. That's what these buffer blocks here are, the admin time, the checking the email time, the possibly even returning phone call time. The rest of these appointments with yourself are meant to be protected so you can be fully engaged and making sure you hit your daily quota of how many people are you going to call, or how many leads are you going to create, or when are you going to work on your CRM, or when are you going to work on your sales scripts, you know, and practicing those and getting better. Those are all examples of what I encourage people to make sure, because that's another thing that salespeople tend to do, is they tend to be working 24/7, become workaholics. Especially, it's easy to do that from home. I can speak to that. Before, I never worked from home, and all of a sudden I was home all the time. That was a challenge. So being able to turn off your phone, find some time to reflect, look through your day, to check your vision. All of those things are critical to your own focus, because if you're working all the time and you don't have time blocks, you're kind of shooting from the hip all the time, and that energy also gets sent out to the prospect and might be leaving money on the table for you as well. Another thing I like to share with people is my daily compass and guide, and that's this document that I was talking about earlier that I use again and have used actually since the recession. I created this during the recession, is being able to write down your day and your vision on paper. Jim Rohn always said, you know, when do you start your day? When it's finished on paper. So making sure you have your big rocks, making sure your personal and professional focuses for the day. How are you going to take care of yourself? Putting all of your stuff on paper, it may seem old school if you're used to Google Calendar or Outlook, but I got to tell you, there's power, like scientific power behind writing it down. They say that things that are written down have an 80% likelihood of getting done. And even if you don't get it done that day, you know, reflect at the end of the day and ask yourself, what worked, what didn't work, and what can I take forward to tomorrow and recommit to doing with excellence. So that's another tool that I can share with you guys if anybody would like to. Hold on a second here. All right. So set a goal. You know, as part of this too is set a goal every day to reflect on your time, your schedule, but also if you want to set a time to learn that new online skill, don't forget about that, because online lead generation right now is very, very powerful. And if you want, you can also read this book. This will help give you structure. This is, I read this book about 4 years ago. Loved it so much I got the certification, but I'm not even kidding. A lot of times we think too much in annualized thinking, so we just kind of push our goals out, and before you know it, that's why so many people tend to get so much done at the end of the quarter or the end of the year, because they kind of don't focus, right? Well, in this book, he teaches you the tools to focus and get more done in 12 weeks than the average person does in 12 months. So I did go a little bit over, guys. Just really quickly, I wanted to share with you a couple testimonials of people who have used these tools and applied them and have had breakthroughs. And like I said at the beginning, my hope was that you take action on one of the things that I talked about today. And I know each one of those points probably could have been standalone trainings in and of themselves, but I wanted to, not knowing exactly what the needs were of every single person here, I wanted to give you some powerful nuggets that you can use, hopefully today or moving forward. This is Mary out of Las Vegas, Nevada. She had a lot of world-class training with her company, but not any sales training, not any time management training. And she had major breakthroughs, and in 1 month of working with me, she had the ability to create more customers, and she also was a recruiter for that company, so she recruited more people and had more customers after just 30 days than she had in any given month in 4 years. This is Kathy. She's from Minneapolis. She worked with me for a 12-week year, a good 3 months one-on-one. Before COVID started, thankfully. So instead of when COVID happened, you know, her business crashed as a sales manager and a recruiter of salespeople. She has a sales team. I also spoke to her sales team. She's actually been soaring through this whole time. She is now in my online coaching program and doing really, really well. So my question to you before I open it up to Q&A is write down, you know, what are you focused on next? What are you going to work on? Are you going to work on your mindset around sales and take away some of the nuggets that I talked about today? Are you going to work on your lead generation plan? Lead gen is step number 1 in that sales mountain process. Are you going to work up on your follow-up, creating your own version, again, you can do whatever's best for you, but I got to tell you, having those 8 touches lined out so you increase your sales close is critical. Time management, are you going to work on that? Are you going to clear up your 2020 vision? And of course, as I always, being a coach, I have to ask, who are you going to have hold you accountable? Is it a business partner? Usually not best to have a spouse do it for you. Do you have a coach? Do you have someone in BNI that can be your running buddy that you can share your goals with? And of course, being a good salesperson, I'm always going to share with you one way you can have me as your accountability partner. I've created, I call it my pandemic irresistible, crazy, low and affordable cost. Of course, these are in American dollars. But for anyone who attended today, because I am doubling these prices by next Monday, June 1st, they're going to be double. I'm doing a $25 a month online coaching program, and I know Latara's in there. I've got a couple of my clients on here today, always wanting to come and learn more, because every time you hear something, you're going to be hearing it different because you're further along in your process. And I know she's had great results in less than a month of starting. So $25 a month, like a monthly membership, like a monthly gym membership, you can cancel at any time. I also have a one-time $197 payment for anybody who wants to be in my online virtual coaching program. It's a lot like this. It's a lot like this. And we're going to go over all of the things I covered today, but at a deeper level. I take 1 week, I'll cover time management. 1 week, I'll cover mindset and vision. 1 week, I'll cover my 8x8 program and how to use sales scripts to close. And then also this week, I covered on how to build an online audience, which is part of what I know Latara is going to be working on with her ebook. So learning how to prospect, learning how to use Zoom, learning how to use social media and video to build your audience and brand, how to publish content and build a following, like YouTube and all of those other things. And of course, my big passion is mastering your day. Otherwise, if you don't master your time and your day and your time will own you and create all sorts of obstacles for you. So this is a private Facebook group, so you do have to be on Facebook, but I'm creating a WhatsApp group for anybody international. Having access to me on WhatsApp or email, having a free one-on-one game planning session that's included if you do the $25 a month or the $197. And if anybody's interested, feel free to shoot me a message. So I'm going to go ahead and stop because I've gone over, you guys. I get excited and I want to share. So anybody have, yes, I will share the podcast. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Lois. If I may, if I can just do a very quick summary, because that's a hell of a lot to take in. So number 1, start with your mindset. Number 2, start building relationships. Number 3, start on your sales process. 4, don't forget your follow-up. And 5, very importantly, rinse and repeat. So keep on doing it. But my added little bit here is don't get overwhelmed. It's very, very easy to get overwhelmed when in the face of all that information. But you've got to start somewhere. So great question from Lois. Where are you going to start?
I think for me, I need a plan. I've got young kids, a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I think because my business is relatively new, I'm quite an impatient person. So I want to be at the best where my competitors are. And I know it's going to take time. And I'm trying to do everything at once. And I think I feel a bit overwhelmed at the moment. I think that's what it is. I'm trying to do everything all at once, whereas I need to actually just kind of think, okay, I can't do an 8-hour working day at the moment with young children. I need to, break it down into bite-sized chunks and just do the best I can do without trying to do everything.
All you can do is all you can do. That's another thing is how do you eat an apple or an elephant one bite at a time? So yeah, you're absolutely right. Keep in mind, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've have children. And so learning how to juggle all of those balls, being a B&I director, a mom, a business owner, a wife, all these titles and roles, at the end of the day, you could lose yourself. So be true to yourself. That's why even if you have some time in the morning before the little monkeys are running around, you know, and take that time to plan your day and just, you know, do your best and forget the rest. That's why at the bottom of my daily compass, I don't know if you saw it, is to know what disturbed me or distracted me today without judgment, and take it forward and do your best one day at a time.
Yeah, it's brilliant. No, thank you very much.
Anybody else? Ooh, you've all gone shy. Go on, Suzette.
I'm here.
There you go. I unmuted you.
Yeah, I have spent lockdown doing a lot of this, and it goes back to, you know, I found that routine is a great help, and it's all like, you know, going back to school, you know, sort of having your lessons, having your break, having your lessons, having your lunch, you know, sort of doing that and planning your day. And I've used this time to restructure and reprocess a lot of my practice, and also be very brave in that I'm getting the whole of my working system online with a appointment diary and just doing things so different. So I've stepped out of my comfort zone an awful lot, but I know that when I start working again to actually time in marketing and have that busy brain where I have the ideas to post, I'm going to find really difficult. The constant ideas of being fresh, and what I find really difficult is using the language for the right tone to reach the people that I want. I find that, I mean, I've done a little bit of work with Sam, and I find that I have a hare brain and a tortoise brain, and I find that really difficult all the time to actually, you know, sort of to think the right tone and to get the right message of my principles, my ethos, and the level I want to be. You know,
luckily,
I could ping it off left, right, and centre, but I don't want that. I want it at the right tone, and that to me I find very exhausting.
Luckily, you've got a great marketing guru that I know you work with, and I know she will tell you that it's your voice, your tone. There she is. So whatever your tone will be will hit your clients, but there's maybe a little bit more for you to work with Helen on.
Well, I was just going to say, don't overthink it too much too. I mean, that's what I see a lot of people do. You know, you'll learn and you'll evolve, and just writing out your vision every day. Maybe you start a blog where you share your passions, and your tone will come out, your heart will come out. That's the most important thing, is just be true to you and be authentic, and just focus on being the best version of yourself. And the right people will hear the right message, and those that don't need to hear it right now will keep on walking. And just putting yourself out there more and more, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
I also find that all this media is quite intrusive, in that being quite a private person and working with work, and I find that, you know, sort of you've got to express more of what you are as a person, and I find having the boundaries, you know, very difficult between professional and private life too. I find that quite difficult too.
It goes back to what Lois was saying though, building relationships. And to build a relationship, you have to give a little bit of yourself. Yeah. And online is not really anything different. It's just you're not seeing the person you're talking to, you know, absolutely, because they're reading what you're saying, or they're connecting with the media that you are using. But it starts at that same point of those relationships.
But I still find it tricky.
Yeah.
It's a new
Comfort
thing.
zone. I know. Comfort zone.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I really appreciate you guys staying extra here. It'd be cool if yeah, I was gonna say they're all deep in thought. If anybody, even if you want to share, and we can wrap it up here. If anybody has any ahas or anything that you're going to take action on today, like Sam was saying, if you want to even share it in the chat, so you don't have to come off. I always love to know what people. Kathy.
Hi, what you said about, hi everyone, what you said about putting things down, I think it really, really helps. I think the physical motion of writing things down and then having it next to you and not having it on the computer, I think really, really helps. And I've been unconsciously doing that for a long time, and I just have a notebook with all my points, and then I just physically cross things off as I go along. And I think that it was nice to know that, you know, that actually is, you know, scientifically really helps. So thank you for that. My take on today is I need to work on my CRM and my time management. Thank you. It was a wonderful session.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool.